Welcome back to RacingNews.com Magic. And hey, check it out. Who's here? A familiar friend of the show, JD Fox, is joining us. And that is because we're going north of the border for this preview, Woodbine's feature race of their entire meet, the Queen's Plate Stakes. This is a $1 million race restricted to Canadian-bred or started 3-year-olds, and they're going a mile and a quarter on the synthetic. JD, you are the Woodbine expert of experts that I know here, so I'm glad that you wanted to do this preview with me. First of all, Moira is the favorite. It's a filly. She would be the 38th filly to win this race in its illustrious history. Is she really as good as, to be the favorite in this big field of 11?
All right, I'll set the stage for you. And this is important, Magic. You got to listen to all of this. So,
right.
Won the Oaks by 10 3/4. This is what she did before the Oaks. She has a lot of energy. So she likes to, play around before races. They decided to saddle her away from the rest of the horses. They took her to the outdoor paddock at Woodbine. She got a shoe bent walking on the brick. Farrier came over to try to take off and repair said shoe. Horse kicked said farrier. Farrier had to go to the hospital. There was nobody on track to fix the shoe. She ran, so they had to take both hind shoes off because when you're a horse, you either need both of them or none of them because it's weird to... You basically, imagine you going up and down the beach running and you have one shoe on and one shoe off. I mean, that's essentially what a horse would be feeling in that situation.
It'd be terrible, right?
Yeah. Horse gets a little warm before the race. Wins by 10 3/4. And we all kind of thought that she had this in her. Stretching back out, she had ran a mile and a 16 twice as a 2-year-old, had ran 7 furlongs in the first race of the 3-year-old campaign. This horse is a freak of nature, and I think very valid 5-2 morning line favorite.
She's the 5-2 favorite, and JD, a horse that's exclusively raced against stakes company, debuts and wins by 4 1/4 lengths in a stakes race at Woodbine. So clearly a horse that's a big potential here. Woodbine is the Triple Crown, I should say, for the Canadians. It's a little different. They go synthetic here. They'll go dirt at Fort Erie, and then they'll come back to Woodbine and race on the turf. Long-term goal, long-term picture here for Moira. Is she a Triple Crown threat? Can she handle, do you think, the turf and the dirt as well?
Pedigree-wise, I don't think the turf is going to be a problem. I think the additional distance that she will see might be a little bit of an issue when they get to the turf and when they get to the Prince of Wales on dirt. I think really in this situation, I think she's bred and can handle all three from a surface standpoint. I think the distance is going to be the one question, and that's where I think the second best horse in the field will do a little better as the distances continue to grow.
All right, so she's 5-2 favorite. If we want to make some money, let's say we want to play an exact or trifecta. Who do you look to play with, whether it's boxed or whether it's just underneath her? Who do you want to use from this field?
I am king in trifectas and superfectas. Moira in the first spot, and Sir for sure in the second. So I think 8-10 is a slam dunk exact in this race, and I'm willing to go down a little further and say, okay, let's make some money in the try and the super as well and really kind of go for broke here. So to recap, I think Moira, this is the day of pick fives at Woodbine. There's like 17 of them. Whatever multi-race exotics you want to play, I think Moira is a single personally. So how we're going to extract value is you're going to move on in those sequences, which are actually very difficult. And then we're going to try to hammer exactas, tries, and we're going to give a shot at the super. One thing we have to keep in mind at Woodbine, however, Magic, is it's a 20-cent base super. So we think about the 20 cents being a positive for things like the trifecta at Woodbine. It actually is a pretty valuable bet because it's not that 10-cent super that we see often in United States racing.
That's a great point. You brought up Sir for sure, a pretty impressive winner of the Plate Trial Stakes, going a mile and 8, same as the Woodbine Oaks that Moira ended up winning. A horse I want to ask you about your opinion. So a lot of our followers and viewers, they might not play Woodbine that often. They do know the name Todd Pletcher. And so when you see Todd Pletcher in a race like this with the Ontario-bred horse, so he qualifies, did win on a muddy surface off turf at Belmont Park. And then, not a terrible effort, I thought, first time trying synthetic, first time trying 2 turns. I should say second time two turns. What do you think about the 11 Cause and Mayhem's chances here? It's 6-1. As an American, I'm like 6-1 on a Pletcher in a stakes race. That could be good.
Absolute toss. And here's why. I worry about this horse being a need to lead type. And I think they showed their hand a little bit. So if you're not familiar with the draw for the Queen's Plate, it's a double draw. So they draw the horses and they draw the order in which the connections can pick the posts. The connections picked post 11 for this horse out of what was left because they want a gun to the lead. So they don't want any obstacles there. They're going to gun this horse to the lead. And I think that is a concern in this race because you look at the fractions, and I don't think those were incredibly fast fractions last time out in the plate trial. And this horse couldn't maintain it. Folded pretty easily. I mean, you can make a lot of excuses. First time on the surface, first time on the track, off of a bit of a layoff. I mean, there's lots of things you could look at there. But to me, I think there's a couple of horses. I think the 11 and the 3 Ironstone are just going to go out and wing it up front. That has won this race often in the past, but it's also been the downfall of a lot of people in the past. And I think that's going to be the case here where I'm looking for a horse that can pick up the pieces. I think Moira will pick up the pieces. One other thing we didn't mention with the fillies going against the boys here, there is a weight allowance as well that Moira gets with Rafi Hernandez aboard at 121. All the rest of the horses are going to be at 126. That is a minor factor, but it is a factor to keep in mind in your handicapping.
All great information there from JD Fox. JD, let everybody know who's watching where they can follow you on Twitter for all of your tips and insight, especially when it comes to Woodbine and Australian racing.
So that's going to be at Horse Tickets, and I will be on the ABR coverage of the Queen's Plate. You can follow that on America's Best Racing, or you can also tune into Woodbine's social media and see this ugly mug along with Dan Torgman and Don Lupel on Sunday.
Hey, that's going to be awesome. Congrats. That sounds like a great show. I'll make sure I tune in for that. Make sure you go to racenews.com for free picks for every race, every track across the country, including the Queen's Plate Stakes. We'll see you at the races.